A new era dawned in Australian telecommunications this week, with Telstra saying it will switch on its high-speed ADSL 2+ network because it now has federal government and a regulatory regime it can work with. The thawing of relations comes at a crucial time, with the government due to offer $4.7 billion to the builder of a national fibre broadband network very soon. I spoke to the new Communications Minister, Stephen Conroy, about his plans to put the project to tender and how he would like to take fibre all the way to the home. Well, Senator Conroy, you wrote to Sol Trujillo this week, the CEO of Telstra, reminding him of repeated assurances from the ACCC that they won't require third-party access to ADSL 2+, and you said that you agreed with that. And then Telstra said that you announced a decision on that and had removed a roadblock, and in fact you just reminded them of ACCC assurances. So have you made a commitment?
Under law, I have no role. Any decision that I would purportedly make would actually hold no standing in law. This is a matter for the ACCC, as I explained in my letter and in all my public statements. I've made it very clear that this is properly the matter for the ACCC, but on the basis of the public statements and the conversations that I had with the ACCC, I was happy to write to Telstra, and if that gave them the comfort to be able to switch on 900 exchanges that reached 2.4 million households, then this was a win-win. And if the relationship between Telstra and the previous government wasn't as good as it could be, well, Telstra have drawn a line in the sand and they want to move forward on a positive agenda about delivering genuine high-speed broadband to Australians.
On the subject of third-party access to ADSL 2+, which was the issue this week, isn't it the case that this means that there will be competition in the cities on ADSL 2+ between Telstra and a range of other operators, but no competition in the bush, and therefore potentially higher prices for ADSL in regional areas?
Well, what's happened in the market over the last couple of years is the actual cost of a DSLAM has plummeted. And so companies can make a decision, and so you've got actual infrastructure competition. So companies are in a position where they can install a DSLAM. Now, if they're not getting access to exchanges to install DSLAMs, as one company is claiming this week, well, that's a matter rightly to take to the ACCC and seek a ruling from the ACCC.
Yes, but you're not addressing the actual question, which is that Telstra has got an assurance now that there'll be no access necessary for its ADSL 2+ network, and the other members of the industry, iiNet and others, are demanding it. They're calling for it. So that does imply that there'll be no competition in those areas.
Well, I think, as I've explained earlier, my letter confirms what the ACCC have said, but Telstra haven't received a decision by Stephen Conroy because Stephen Conroy can't make a decision. What I did was, after speaking with the ACCC, confirm the view that the ACCC had put forward and agree with the position of the ACCC. If there's a problem there, then that should be rightfully taken up with the ACCC. But there's nothing stopping any of the competitors to Telstra accessing the exchanges and putting in the DSLAM technologies to create the competition.
And what does this week's announcement by Telstra mean for the Opal joint venture between Optus and Elders, which was announced last year, and a regional broadband business based on a government subsidy? Is this going to affect their business case?
Well, we said from day one that the Labor government would honour any existing contract. And so we're engaged in a process of fulfilling the contract. There are certain milestones and hurdles that need to be met. The Opal Consortium have lodged their undertakings and lodged their plans. My department are considering them. There's a process underway at the moment, and I can't comment too much further because, for obvious legal reasons.
But isn't it possible, if Telstra rolls out ADSL 2+ for the first time in those regional areas that are going to be served by the Opal Consortium, that it must affect their business case?
Well, that's a question you should put to the Opal Consortium. They would be aware that Telstra have had these DSLAMs in the exchanges for the last 18 months. So I'm assuming that as part of their business plan, they took into account this.
And then there's your policy, announced before the election, of spending $4.7 billion to promote a minimum of 12 megabits a second for 98% of Australians. Now, the ADSL 2+ delivers 12 megabits per second, Isn't it the case that your plan is no longer necessary?
Even in the way you described your question, you actually got to the nub of the point. We're talking about delivering a minimum of 12 megs. What ADSL 2 Plus delivers is an up to speed, up to 20.
Up to 20 is pretty fast.
Up to 20, but the average is considerably lower. And the average is affected by the distance from the exchange. ADSL 2 Plus is a component of Labor's fibre network, but it isn't sufficient to reach 98% of Australians' homes and businesses with a minimum. And that's the key here really is the word minimum. When you talk about ADSL 2 Plus, great technology if you live within 1.5 kilometres of an exchange. And that's the key difference with fibre. What we do with fibre is we take fibre into the streets. So the point at which you have to start using the copper is vastly reduced. So those properties of the laws of physics apply much closer to people's homes than they do from exchanges. And that's why it's important and critical, in fact, to get a fibre network in the ground here in Australia.
Do you have an open mind to taking fibre all the way to the home?
Absolutely.
Have you talked to anyone about that?
There's a number of consortiums talking to us about fibre to the home, and I've been engaged in a number of discussions. Our specs that we'll be releasing in the next couple of weeks will allow the possibility of a consortium to put forward a fibre to the home proposal.
And do you think someone will put forward that?
I think there's definitely interest. Now, whether they can build the business case, that's a matter for the consortium. What we have said is that we won't contribute more than $4.7 billion, whether it's a fibre to the node or fibre to the home proposal. So we're very, very keen to encourage fibre to the home. The benefits of fibre to the home when you combine it with smart metering is that you could be demand managing electricity supplies, water supplies, gas supplies, and the impact on a greenhouse production, greenhouse gas production, just from those sorts of technologies, if you combine these sorts of things, are very, very exciting. So fibre to the home has some wonderful potential, but it is more costly, and people have got to build the business case. They can't expect the government's going to give more than $4.7 billion.
No, but given that, I mean, given the extra benefit of that, you're not going to increase the amount, wouldn't it be better to call it, or are you prepared to call it, a fibre to the home proposal with a possible fibre to the node fallback if necessary? Why not say it's a fibre to the home?
No, but we've said it's an open process which would welcome fibre to the home proposals. So that'll be absolutely clearly laid out. Fibre to the node, you've got to meet the minimum benchmark, the 12 megs, 98%. But after that, if you want to go further, if you want to build faster speeds, use a VDSL technology rather than the ADSL 2 Plus, which is what people are suggesting to us now, which will deliver speeds of 20 meg minimum rather than even the 12 meg, we welcome all of those proposals. And this is why we've been prepared to put forward a plan about building this, because it's already generating these newer proposals with newer technologies, fibre to the home possibilities. This is what this country has been crying out for. We've been falling behind further and further. The Howard government just didn't get it, and what you've seen is Kevin Rudd and the Labor government does get it and understands the potential productivity gains, the improvements in people's welfare. This is a very exciting proposal.
And what is the $4.7 billion? Is it an investment by the government in a joint venture with somebody, a public-private partnership, or what?
Our preference is for it to be an equity proposal, but we have an open mind. What we're saying is the proponents should tell us what the style of structure that they would favour, and that will then be part of the discussions through the negotiating process.
They'll say, well, just give us the money.
That is, to be fair, that is true. Everyone would like a $4.7 billion cheque from the government. That's not going to happen. We're not handing over $4.7 billion to anybody. Telstra, G9, fibre to the premise consortium, absolutely not. Our preference is for an equity consortium, but we have an open mind and we'll be saying to people, put forward your proposals.
Thanks for joining us, Minister.
Thanks very much, Alan.